Exemptions from corporate tax for specific persons, approval by the Federal Tax Authority, FTA. Under the UAE's corporate tax framework, certain entities may be granted exemption from corporate tax upon the approval of their application by the Federal Tax Authority, FTA, provided they can demonstrate adherence to the established criteria. This category of exemptions serves to encourage social welfare, support investment activities, and ensure compliance with regulatory oversight. The specific categories eligible for this type of exemption are detailed below. Categories eligible for corporate tax exemption upon approval. 1. Public and private pension or social security funds. This exemption applies to both public and private pension or social security funds that meet the following conditions. Regulatory oversight. The fund must be subject to regulatory oversight by the competent authority in the UAE. This ensures that the entity is operating within a legal and compliant framework designed to safeguard the interests of beneficiaries and maintain adherence to relevant laws. Compliance with additional conditions. The fund must satisfy any additional conditions outlined by the relevant authorities to qualify for corporate tax exemption. These conditions may be established to ensure that the funds are used solely for their intended purposes, such as providing retirement or social security benefits. 2. Qualifying investment funds. A qualifying investment fund may be granted an exemption from corporate tax, subject to the following requirements. Satisfaction of relevant conditions. The fund must meet conditions set forth in the applicable legal framework, as specified by Cabinet Decision No. 81 of 2023. These conditions are intended to ensure that the fund operates transparently, aligns with UAE regulations, and focuses on its investment-related objectives. 3. Juridical persons incorporated in the UAE and owned controlled by exempt persons. A juridical person that is incorporated in the UAE and wholly owned and controlled, either directly or indirectly, by one or more of the specified exempt persons may qualify for a corporate tax exemption. The qualifying exempt persons include I. Government entities. Juridical persons that are wholly owned and controlled by government entities, which are administrative bodies operating under the UAE federal government or the governments of individual emirates, may be exempt if they fulfill all relevant conditions and regulatory requirements. 2. Government-controlled entities. Entities that are juridical persons owned and controlled entirely by one or more government entities, as defined in the relevant legislation and recognized by Cabinet decisions, may also be eligible for corporate tax exemption. 3. Qualifying investment funds. Juridical persons wholly owned and controlled by qualifying investment funds that meet the conditions outlined in Cabinet Decision No. 81 of 2023 may be granted a tax exemption, allowing for uninterrupted focus on investment activities and related objectives. 4. Public pension funds or social security funds. Juridical persons owned and controlled by public pension or social security funds that meet the necessary criteria may qualify for a corporate tax exemption, facilitating the fund's ability to provide essential retirement or social security services. Private pension or social security funds. Private pension or social security funds that adhere to the conditions specified in Ministerial Decision No. 115 of 2023 are eligible for corporate tax exemption. The decision outlines the standards and regulatory requirements that must be met to ensure the proper functioning and oversight of these entities. Application and approval process. Entities seeking an exemption from corporate tax within these categories must submit an application to the Federal Tax Authority, FTA. The application process involves demonstrating compliance. Applicants must provide evidence that they satisfy all relevant conditions, including regulatory oversight, ownership and control criteria, and operational restrictions related to the exempt status. Approval by the FTA. Upon thorough review of the application, the FTA may grant or deny the exemption based on its assessment of whether the entity meets all established conditions. Only entities that successfully demonstrate compliance will be approved for exemption. Ongoing compliance requirements. Approved entities are expected to maintain compliance with all applicable conditions for their exemption. The Federal Tax Authority may request documentation or other forms of evidence to verify continued adherence to these conditions. Failure to comply with the regulatory framework or maintain the conditions of exemption may result in the revocation of the exempt status and potential imposition of corporate tax.